Mega Man, lovingly referred to as the Blue Bomber, blasted his way onto the gaming scene in 1987. Despite Mega Man 1 not initially being a commercial success, Mega Man 2 went on to become such a massive hit that to this day, merchandise, TV shows, and manga are still created around him. He also made an appearance in Nintendo's Smash Bros. 4 to wild acclaim. Until recently, Keiji Inafune had always been considered the father of Mega Man outside of Japan, even being featured on G4 TV's Icons as the creator of Mega Man, and yet, this isn't the case. So who did create Mega Man, and what was Keiji Inafune's actual role? What's up guys, I'm Dave Klein, and today, we're going to take a look into who was behind Mega Man. In the late 1980s, the Nintendo Famicom, or Nintendo Entertainment System, was starting to hit its stride. It was a massive success in Japan, and was just beginning to break out in the United States. Capcom would regularly port over its popular arcade titles to the NES, but finally decided it was time to take a risk and create an original series for the home console market. This led to Akira Kitamura, or AK as he's credited in Mega Man 1, being tasked as the planner on a new game. And you'll have to excuse the fact that I'm using a manga image of him. Through all of my online digging, I couldn't find a single photo of Akira Kitamura, so I'm using Hitoshi Ariga's manga representation of him. And in an interview with Hitoshi Ariga, translated by Shmuplations, Akira Kitamura revealed quite a lot. Initially, Akira Kitamura planned on the new console project to be more of a shoot-'em-up game. However, due to the way in which Mega Man programmer Nobuyuki Matsushima, credited as HMD in Mega Man, liked to program, this wasn't possible on the NES. Before working on Mega Man, Nobuyuki Matsushima had done programming for a number of different companies, mostly industrial manufacturing companies. His programming skills were flawless, probably because he had worked in an environment where a mistake could cost someone's life. He would never allow there to be any bugs in his work. There was one difficulty with Matsushima's programming though. His code was slow. Being so perfectly wrought with lots of internal safety checks and the like meant that it took a lot of processing power and ran slowly. His routines for hit detection, for example, were very slow. My first idea for Mega Man was actually something closer to a STG game where there'd be lots of enemies on screen at once and you'd have fun blasting them all. But due to those programming limitations, I had to change the type of game. The new game I envisioned had fewer enemies and more varied terrain to obviate the need for multiple enemies on screen. So in essence, it was actually thanks to these programming limitations that really led to Mega Man becoming something unique and different than the regular shoot-'em-up of the time. It's also what allowed the team to create the iconic Mega Man sprite. You see, Mega Man consisted of two character sprites, a sprite being the actual image of the character. Due to the constraints of the NES, each sprite could only have a certain amount of colors, and while typically you'd only use one sprite, by using two, they could make Mega Man stand out by giving him more color. One unexpected benefit of this new design was that less enemies meant we had the resources to do that cool layering effect on Mega Man's character sprite. Without Matsushima's programming abilities though, I don't think we would have even attempted it. It's not something we normally did. In fact, not only did Mega Man's sprite come out thanks to the programming of Nobuyuki Matsushima, but so did the fact that Mega Man would change colors. Akira Kitamura wanted Mega Man's appearance to change every time he would get a new ability, similar to the helmets of the characters from the show Ninja Captor. However, for various reasons, we weren't going to be able to use those symbols like that. But that design element was super important to me. It wasn't really up for compromise. As I sat there fretting, Matsushima came over and said, "How about this?" What he showed me was the color change mechanic. It was a fresh stylistic idea, and this was when I started to get really excited about Mega Man's character design. This was also the point at which we decided to use the two sprites and two palettes for Mega Man's sprite. I was very grateful for Matsushima. Because of this color changing aspect of Mega Man, Akira Kitamura initially wanted Mega Man to be white. White as a default would strengthen the impression of the other colors when he changes weapons. That's how we drew him at first, like a white ball of mochi. But if he was all one single color, it would have made the sprite animation less clear. I didn't want to go with anything ostentatious for a second color, so we chose two shades of blue. So, despite the popular belief that Mega Man was made blue because of the color limitations of the NES, according to Akira Kitamura, this was really a preference over the personality the color would portray. It was around this point that Keiji Inafune, who's typically considered the father of Mega Man, was assigned onto the project. I'm often called the father of Mega Man, but actually, his design was already created when I joined Capcom. My mentor at Capcom, who was the designer of the original Mega Man, had a basic concept of what Mega Man was supposed to look like, so I only did half of the job in creating him. Presumably, this mentor was none other than Akira Kitamura. In shaping the new look of Mega Man, Keiji Inafune was inspired by his favorite classic anime from his childhood, with Astro Boy being an especially large influence. What happened was, there was a planner that whenever they made a Famicom character, they had to look at it on the screen and see how it popped, whether it was visible, whether you can play as it and it would pop off the background. This planner put together a pixel character that really had good read against the Famicom backgrounds, then went to me and said, okay, I want you to make a character that looks like a Famicom graphic could have come from that character. So it was like a reverse character design. The fact that Mega Man's birth came from this pixelized character that the planner initially created, but the actual animation, the rendition of him as a character, I did create. According to Keiji Inafune, he himself went on to design the look of most of the other bosses and many of the enemies. I designed pretty much everything for Mega Man 1, such as the characters, pixel graphics, box arts, and promotional illustrations. Although, Akira Kitamura also takes some credit, stating, after creating Cutman, more and more Robot Masters started coming to me. I gave them all general personality. I got a lot of hints for the gameplay out of their profiles. Also contesting Keiji Inafune's widespread claim of doing just about all of the art, there are 4 credited artists to Mega Man 1, including Akira Kitamura, Naoya Tomita, and Yasuaki Kishimoto. Yasuaki Kishimoto being the one who created all of the background graphics. As far as the Robot Masters go, the first robot Inafune design was Elec Man, who he tried to make look like popular American comic characters such as Spider-Man or the X-Men. While Inafune likely did design the look of most of the bosses, one it seems he didn't was Cutman. Before Mega Man, Cutman was actually supposed to be the original protagonist of the game, and was the very first robot Akira Kitamura created. When I first created the world for Mega Man, but before I knew what the gameplay system would be, originally there was no Mega Man, no Roll, no Dr. Light. Cutman was the hero. I imagined a game where you'd use those scissors on his head to cut down enemies and other obstacles as you progress through the stage. As the gameplay and concept of the game developed, the character was changed to the Mega Man we all know today. In designing the overall gameplay of Mega Man, Akira Kitamura went to great lengths to make it as replayable as possible. He would lock himself away, replaying difficult sections of games over and over again, trying to determine what made the difficult sections feel like bottlenecks and how they would discourage players. As I thought about game design then, I started to wonder if designers had really thought deeply about enemy placement and behavior. I decided to play a bunch of different games and study the difficult sections in action games, replaying them over and over. 2 of my personal goals for Mega Man were to create a game where all the stages could be cleared in an hour, and to make something that players would want to come back to again and again. To that end, I actually calculated the total number of stages by measuring Mega Man's walking speed and seeing how long it would take to get through each stage. After this, Akira Kitamura created a couple design rules that would be in place for Mega Man, and was meant to be utilized in future installments. Number 1. Single weak little enemies would appear in waves of 3 or 4 individuals, and to the extent possible, he'd avoid mixing up multiple enemies. Number 2. They would all use the same attacks. Number 3. He would use differences in terrain and enemy placement to adjust the difficulty of a given section. Number 4. The difficulty of each enemy in the wave would gradually rise, but the last enemy to appear would be the easiest. The first enemy you might have to jump and shoot. The next one you have to actually dodge his bullets, and it's a little more difficult. Then for the final enemy in the wave, it would be easier. You can just stand there and shoot him head on. All the enemy waves in Mega Man follow that basic pattern. Actually, in the first Mega Man, I applied this midway through development, but for Mega Man 2, I did it for the entire game. Making the last enemy encounter in the wave easier was a key idea. It leaves the player with a softer impression of the game's difficulty. So while all of this would seem to indicate that Akira Kitamura was the creator of Mega Man, he's quick to point out that it was definitely a team effort. It wasn't made according to one mastermind's whims and fancies. It was a melting pot of ideas from different people, and I think that also helps explain its appeal. I used to say to the staff that creating this game solely according to the image in my mind would be a mistake. If we didn't make Mega Man from the sum of everyone's contributions, music, graphics, and the rest, it would be meaningless. That irresponsible notion that, if only everyone just thought like me, I could make the perfect Mega Man. I think that's the most damaging thought for a creative endeavor. I spent a lot of time trying to get everyone to understand that. This is further evidenced by not only the fact that the game was created by only 6 people, but Keiji Inafune stating, "Back then, people weren't specialized, and we had to do a lot of different things because there were so few people, so I really ended up doing all of the characters." Manami Matsumae was tasked with creating the music for Mega Man, and according to Kira Kitamura, her music was what made Capcom management think they were doing a good job on the project. Eventually came the name of their protagonist. Initially, he was going to be dubbed either Mighty Kid or Knuckle Kid, but eventually the team settled on Rockman for rock and roll, with his sister being named Roll. When the game was eventually localized to the United States, Capcom's then senior vice president, Joseph Morici, thought the title was horrible, so I came up with Mega Man, and they liked it enough to keep using it for the US games. Mega Man released to Japan in 1987 to better than expected results. Due to this, the team was allowed to make a sequel, and Mega Man 2, released in 1988, exploded Mega Man into the phenomenon it would become. Akira Kitamura states, "The truth is, after we made the first Mega Man, I knew right away that this would become a series. The gameplay system was really well done, and I felt that it would be easy for another developer or team could make a sequel and keep that high level of quality." So, given all of this, it really seems like Akira Kitamura was the creator of Mega Man. So how did it become such a widespread notion that Keiji Inafune, an artist on the title, was the creator of the character and game? Well, I think it's a matter of misinformation being spread over and over again, and probably has a lot to do with the G4 TV episode of Icons, which claimed Keiji Inafune was the creator of the game. Even in interviews with Keiji Inafune, he typically talks about creating the art of the character and how he would do pixel art, but nothing about the actual game design. In an interview with Games Radar, they asked, "For those who may not know your level of involvement in the Mega Man series, could you give us a quick breakdown of your contributions to the franchise?" And then in parentheses, "other than inventing it, of course." Which leads me to question if they actually asked him that during the interview. Keiji Inafune responds, "I designed pretty much everything for Mega Man 1, such as the characters, pixel graphics, box art, and promotional illustrations. From the second installment, I began getting involved in game production. My involvement in the franchise production has become deeper with each subsequent installment, and eventually I started to manage development as well as promotions and marketing." So, from his answer, it's clear that he only worked on the art of the first game and wasn't actually involved in the production until subsequent titles. And as people tend to source each other, this misconception has only spread. With Mega Man 2, Akira Kitamura was once again the planner, and even had an influence over the music. While it's unclear why, Takashi Tateshi was assigned to be the composer instead of Manami Matsumae, and many of his initial compositions were rejected by Kitamura. In fact, he claims to have struggled with creating music for the game, as Akira Kitamura wouldn't sign off on his compositions. Kitamura would give him notes on how he wanted the music to feel, and eventually, Takashi Tateshi created what would become some of the Nintendo Entertainment System's most memorable music. So how is it with how fundamentally influential Akira Kitamura, the true creator of Mega Man, was on the titles, his name has been mostly lost to the annals of history? Well, that'll take me talking about my favorite game in the series, Mega Man 3. When I visited Japan, I had to pick up a copy of the game because it means so much to me, and funny enough, it turns out that it's the first game in the series Akira Kitamura didn't work on. After the release of Mega Man 2, Akira Kitamura decided to leave Capcom and start his own venture. And even at this point, with Mega Man 3, Keiji Inafune still wasn't chosen to be the planner. Instead, this honor was given to Masahiko Kurokawa, credited as Patariro. In advising Kurokawa, Akira Kitamura told him not to mess with the basic gameplay system, that he wanted the various items of Mega Man 2 to be replaced with the robot dog Rush, and wanted Mega Man to have a mysterious prototype brother, number 000. Kurokawa followed these instructions, but apparently there was internal strife amongst the team. According to Keiji Inafune, Masahiko Kurokawa didn't really understand Mega Man the way Akira Kitamura did, and has referred to the game as his least favorite in the series due to what went into the game and what was behind the release of the game. Partway through development, Kurokawa left his role on the game, and it was decided Keiji Inafune would take over his duties. Finally, in Mega Man 4, Keiji Inafune received credit as a designer, although it was another artist, Hayato Kaji, who's credited with creating the idea of the chargeable Mega Buster. Keiji Inafune did go on to be involved in every main numbered Mega Man game to some capacity, while Akira Kitamura went on to create Kokoron for the NES, and eventually fell off the map, leaving the industry altogether. I think it's due to this, combined with the fact that the final artistic designs of Mega Man were created by Keiji Inafune. He's often credited as the father of Mega Man. However, I think it's clear that Akira Kitamura was the true creator of Mega Man. From the way the games were designed to the initial pixel creation of the character, Keiji Inafune certainly molded that and was instrumental in the visual style of the world of Mega Man, but I believe the heart of what made the franchise work is thanks to Akira Kitamura. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit longer than my last one, but when it comes to Mega Man, I just couldn't hold back from all the juicy, sweet quotes. And speaking of which, if you did enjoy it, I highly recommend checking out the full Akira Kitamura interview that was translated on shmuplations.com. The link is in the description. The guy who does Shmuplations always does an incredible job and a lot of really cool translations, so definitely check it out. And if you want to see more videos from me, let me know what characters or games that you want to see discussed. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace.